Yes, what's happening, everyone? Welcome back to GA Fan TV, and we are here today to preview this weekend's Leinster final between Meath and Dublin. Hugely excited for this game. Dublin, of course, have the chance to win their ninth Leinster final in a row, which will, of course, be a record in the Leinster Championship and in provincial championships. So a huge day for Dublin. Of course, a huge day for Meath as well. It is the first time in a couple of years that they have made it to Leinster final. So huge day out for them. Huge day out for Dublin, of course, as well. But of course, guys, first of all, if you are new around here, do hit that like button, hit that subscribe button as well. Let me know what you think down in the comments below, what is going to happen. And of course, if you are new to the channel, yeah, do subscribe. And yeah, guys, let's jump straight into it. So Meath versus Dublin in the Leinster final. First time in a couple of years that these two have played each other in Leinster final. Of course, huge traditional rivalry between these two counties going down the years. In fact, it was actually Meath. Meath were actually the last county to beat Dublin in the Leinster Championship, and that came back in 2010. So certainly, I think a lot of possibilities for this Meath side to really cause an upset in many ways. But of course, with Dublin's quality, you would have to say that Dublin would eventually shine through. In terms of how both sides have played so far in the championship and so far this year, Dublin, of course, they didn't have their best league campaign by any stretch of the imagination, but of course there was a lot of rotation in terms of players. I think Dublin were one of the most heavily rotated teams out of all Division 1 counties. But of course, one player who has stood out amongst the rest has been Cormac Costello. This is a player that has spent numerous years on the bench for Dublin, coming off the bench, making significant changes in an All-Ireland final, I think he did. I remember a couple of years ago, made a huge difference coming off the bench when Dublin played Mayo a couple of years ago. And now he is finally getting his chance to start, and he's delivering. He's taking his opportunities, he's taking his chances. And specifically in that game against Kildare, he was Dublin's standout player with 9 points. Of course, you do have, the usual standout players for Dublin, the likes of Paul Mannion, of course, as well. It has been very good this year, and he's another standout player to really keep your eye on. But of course, Meath have their own talents as well, and they have done quite well in Leinster in the end. They looked a bit shaky, of course, in their first game against Offaly. They certainly weren't up to scratch. There was a lot of probably. They looked very rusty in that game, of course. Having the break from the league final probably didn't suit them that well, and they were actually probably lucky in many respects to come out with the victory. But since then, they certainly haven't looked back. Very impressive versus Carlow, and of course then against Laois, the side who were in the Leinster final last year, and a side with a lot of experience in the past 2 years or so in getting to finals at Croke Park. So certainly for Meath, one player who really stood out in that game versus Laois was James Conlon. He made his debut, hitting 5 points, 4 of them coming in the first half, and he was very impressive for this Meath side. It is a very young Meath side, a lot of players making their debut season, a lot of players coming through the ranks and finally breaking into this Meath side. You've great players in the team like Michael Newman, of course, Cillian O'Sullivan, very good in the midfield. In that game versus Offaly, when Meath were struggling, he struggled to some fair extent, but I think he is a player that has improved quite significantly since that game against Carlow. He was very good in the midfield, keeping possession, recycling possession. When Carlow were playing that very defensive style, he was very good at drawing Carlow out. I thought he was impressive in that midfield for Meath. But yeah, it should be an intriguing battle. It should be an intriguing game between two good counties. Of course, for Meath, listen, they shouldn't be too disappointed if they lose this final. It's kind of a given in many ways, but I feel like with the progress that Meath have had, a Super 8's championship place should be theirs, in my opinion. They should be in that Super 8's championship, in my opinion, after the year they had in Division 2. The quality they've shown, I think, has been very impressive in many respects. And do let me know down in the comments, guys, what you think. Would this season be a failure if Meath were not to make the Super 8s? If they were to go out in the qualifiers would it be a failure? In my opinion, depends who they play, of course, doesn't it? I mean, if they were to lose to Dublin and then they were to play like Tyrone, yeah, these things can happen, of course. Well, could they play? Oh, they could play Tyrone, yeah. So Tyrone could be an option. Mayo could be an option if Meath were to lose. So a lot depends in that respect. But of course, if they were to play a Westmeath or maybe a Monaghan, let's say, maybe losing that type of a game would be a disappointment for Meath's season. In terms of Dublin, you would expect them to win this game. And of course, as a Dublin fan myself, having watched Dublin, for the past, enjoying all this All Ireland success, you would expect the minimum is to win a Leinster Championship quite comfortably, if I'm perfectly honest, especially for our football team. So, yeah, I am going to go ahead and say that Dublin wins this game by, see, a lot of the time when I give my predictions, I say 5 to 6 points, kind of being respectful to the opposition when I'm, because I don't want to come across as too cocky as a Dublin fan. But realistically, Dublin beat Kildare by 15 points in their last game. And many people are actually saying Kildare played well. And look, listen, I do think they played well. In some ways, they kept, close to Dublin before Dublin eventually pulled away. So, yeah, I mean, Dublin, I'm going to say Dublin win by 9 points. I think Meath will come out, if Meath can come out of the blocks quite fast and really put Dublin under pressure and have their game of their life, and Dublin have the worst game of their life, Dublin will probably still win by 5 or 6 points. But look, listen, who knows? We will see what happens. But I am going to go ahead and say that Dublin wins this game by 9 points. We will see what happens, of course. I will do my match reaction to the game and we will see what happens. But yeah, guys, my name has been Aaron. Do hit that like button, hit that subscribe button as well, and I'll catch you all next time.